Obviously, you guys already know the significance of the day, but it is, in fact, the 20th anniversary of quite possibly the most significant day in, well, Americans bore the brunt of it, but I think it is probably the single day, if we can point at one inciting moment in time, it was the death of Western society. And I know it's late and it probably doesn't mean much, but to those 2,977 people who perished on that day, I remember it still as clear as I can remember anything else in time. It was, it happened at about 8:45 on the East Coast. So where I'm at, I would have been just waking up in the morning, getting ready to go to school. I checked it out. It was a Tuesday morning, and yeah, I remember seeing the morning news on going into school. School went about as well as you'd expect it to. There was a whole bunch of just talk about the event itself, and then at the end of the day, we all got the first tape from Osama bin Laden, learned that name. Things have never been the same ever since. I don't have the proper context to really understand what life was like before September 11th, but everything really changed from the Patriot Act to the TSA. There's no going back from that point. And if we knew what the reaction to that would be, especially when it came to government overreach, perhaps we would have been better prepared. But I don't want to besmirch, and I don't want to neglect all the servicemen and women, what they have also sacrificed as well. So we're going to be talking a lot about that as well. But it's also a anniversary for another significant event, but that is something else that we're going to have to talk about in an entirely another video, because it is such a big topic as well. But it is the 9th anniversary of the Benghazi attack, and then the 4 deaths that were there and all the cover-up that happened with that as well. But one heady topic at a time. It would have been wrong not to acknowledge that, but as we have here, and we're going to have a whole bunch of other commentary from a bunch of corrupt people who should have known better and who should continue to, I hate to use the term, but just do better with the situation that they have. And yeah, Biden with his no live address today is, I have no words for the idiocy and the just absolute disrespect that is. There's just no better way to put it, at least not civilly. Americans across the country came together on September 11th to commemorate the 20th anniversary. I can't believe it's 20 years, but the 9/11 terror attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people, official number on the day, and not the people that have passed away because of their help on that day, and then also from the other events that coincided with that as well. But in that day, those 2 planes, 3 planes, 4 planes, the 2 that hit the towers, the one that hit the Pentagon, and then the one that got hijacked and then re-hijacked by the passengers and saved a whole hell of a lot more people's lives as well. We'll continue. Observances were planned across the country, from a wreath laying in Portland, Maine, to flag flying at half-staff at the Washington Monument, marked by the sea of statues, 9/11 plaques, and sorrowful Americans vowing never to forget the deadliest attack of terrorism on U.S. soil. I hope so. I hope that's the case. Ceremony at Ground Zero at New York City got underway with the first responders striking a silver bell at 8:46 a.m., the exact time when the first 2 hijacked planes crashed into the World Trade Center's Twin Towers. It felt like an evil specter had descended on our world, but it was also a time when many people acted above and beyond the ordinary, said Mike Lowe, whose daughter Sarah Lowe was a flight attendant on the plane. As we carry these 20 years forward, I find sustenance in a continuing appreciation for all those who rose to be more than ordinary people. The father told a crowd that included Joe Biden and former presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, as well as George W. Bush, who we will get into all of their comments, except for Biden's, because I didn't see any commentary that he's provided today, but he had a pre-recorded message, which, again, it's just inexcusable. Shaking your head, whatever. We'll just continue. Relatives then read aloud the names of the 2,977 victims who had died the World Trade Center attacks, and later hasn't there been enough tragedy on the day? Why did you have to invite Bruce Springsteen up? In a line of tradition, no politician spoke at the Ground Zero ceremony in Manhattan, where the buildings will be illuminated in a bright blue, and at sunset, twin beams will project 4 miles into the sky to mirror the fallen towers. During this 20th anniversary year, we share the history and lessons learned in a new generation, teach them about the ongoing repercussions of the 9/11 attacks, and inspire the world with memories of the fortitude, strength, and resilience. The 9/11 Memorial Museum wrote in a special section on its website dedicated to the 20th anniversary commemorations. So yes, before we get into what those wonderful heads of state who have been responsible for so much of this fucking tragedy, one especially, George W. We're going to talk about that despicable sack of shit in a moment, but what has been gained over the past 20 years? Well, revisionist history is quite a bitch, and the way that the kids on the come up are acting now, I guess I'm a part of that generation, but to see people who were there, who lived through all of this at a closer level, I have no words for them. I really don't. It's only been 20 years, but the amount of capitulation is, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. 20 years after the September 11th attack, a question remains if the mission in Afghanistan was achieved its objective of eradicating terrorism. I think we have a very simple one-word answer for that. Alan Weiner, an international legal scholar and senior lecturer at Stanford University, said that the initial goal to destroy al-Qaeda's base in Afghanistan was largely achieved. Yeah, but it didn't stay that. It didn't stay that at all. Al-Qaeda's training camps in Afghanistan were destroyed. Many of its leaders were killed and captured, although some, including Osama bin Laden, managed to escape, at least initially. Yeah, he didn't get body bagged until 10 years later, so I ended up demarcating the halfway point, which is absurd on the face of it once again. And its ability to plan, finance, and execute major global terrorist operations was severely diminished, but wasn't completely eradicated because there was Iran still there, of course. However, the initial success did not last, Weiner said, although al-Qaeda never resumed significant operations in Afghanistan until a couple of weeks ago. The organization metastasized and lethal... You're trying to co-opt the rhetoric here, pal. The organization metastasized, and lethal variants of the organization arose in. Okay. Professor from Stanford. Yeah, okay. It all starts to fucking make sense now, doesn't it? Other countries in the Middle East and elsewhere. Also, other terrorist groups such as ISIS emerged. He added, no shit. No fucking shit. Al-Qaeda, designated a terrorist organization by the State Department in 1999. Yeah, they knew a whole hell of a lot of this stuff beforehand, folks. It's behind the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001, which killed almost 3,000 Americans and international citizens. After the September 11th attack, the United States invoked the NATO's Treaty Clause of Collective Defense, which stipulates an attack against one member in consideration and an attack on all members in the alliance. Hence why there was the combined forces in the unified front that went to Afghanistan. But when George W. Bush was like, ooh, Iraq tried to kill my daddy, so we're going to go in there, we're going to give them some freedom, only the Brits stepped up. Even if it was, I think it was either Paul Martin or Stephen Harper, it was the whole bounce back and forth between minority governments at the time. Even we weren't biting on that. I'm pretty sure that was the official stance of both parties. I know it was for Stephen Harper, and I couldn't imagine it was any different for Paul Martin. As a result, the NATO forces led by the country invaded Afghanistan in response with a goal to ensure that the country does not again become a safe haven for international terrorists. Keep that in mind for a minute, international part, because oh boy, they're pivoting quickly. At least the people up top are. Al-Qaeda at the time of the attack, a symbolic relationship with the Taliban. Oh, just symbolic. Oh, okay. In Afghanistan, which effectively controlled most of the country, except for the north. But now the Taliban control the entire country. The entire country is under the Taliban regime. Let me make that clear. They're in a stronger position now than they were. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. President Bush, I feel like I just need to reflexively spit whenever I see that. And others quickly began to emphasize an additional objective of overthrowing the Taliban to liberate the Afghan people from the regime's repressive practices. See what happens? This all could have been just solved by a fucking bombing raid by F-15 fighter pilots. I was trying to think of the bombers at the same time, but no, they could have just fucking glassed the training facilities. But no, it was all about providing freedom and nation building and making a base out there in the Middle East. I can understand it from their side, but that's not the topic of this video because it's going to be long enough already. We sought to promote basic human rights and to end the Taliban's oppression of women. That sure did fucking happen now, didn't it? They had a nice little reprieve for 20 years, but then it failed. They absolutely failed. But anyways, Afghanistan did make significant progress in terms of economic development and the realization that at least some civil and political rights, the scholar continued. Yeah, that's why you're a scholar from Stanford, you fuck. Nobody could make these types of statements with this little thought put into it without having a PhD at the end of their name and then having tenure somewhere. However, the Taliban has not yet been eradicated in the civil war in against the Afghan government. There's no civil war. They just fucking steamrolled them. All of the security forces for the Afghan government, they just either fucking fled town or flipped sides. We're just going to skip ahead because we've been over who the Taliban is for I think that there's like a dozen videos on the channel just within the past month or so, so I need not tread well-visited ground. The analyst believes that Afghanistan was not defeated militarily, but politically. Wow, thanks. Okay. Do I get my PhD in the mail, or like how the fuck does this work? Afghanistan military was able to fight for the long term. We had around 370,000 police and army, and we had around 45,000, don't need to sell them short, commando forces. And in most parts of Afghanistan, the army didn't fight with the Taliban. They just gave in to the areas of the Taliban and left. Yeah, exactly. Tried to get into one of the vehicles or one of the helicopters that Guyani took off in. Tomorrow I got a pretty deep dive into President Guyani that you probably don't want to miss, because a lot of the stuff that's being talked about today and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing over the past couple of days is very well illustrated into what led that guy to assume his role as president, because oh boy, are there some sketchy situations with him being elected, appointed, I'll let you decide, and the way that he ran his country. Proxy state if I've ever seen one. In Akrami's view, Afghanistan's collapse was started with negotiations between the United States and the Taliban in Qatar. He considers these negotiations a strategic mistake of NATO and America because it helps the Taliban, a terrorist organization, to boost their image as strong forces respecting people's rights, Arqami said. Oh, brother. Yeah, this was all predicated, this entire withdrawal was predicated on the guy who was issuing the order at the top, dreaded orange man, saying that if you guys fuck around with any of our military, you're going to find out that was a bad fucking decision. But now you have Joe and he's like, well, brown people, put them on a plane and bring them on over. Speaking of that fucking glassy-eyed idiot, Joe Biden marks 20th anniversary in a pre-recorded message because I guess he couldn't get 30 hours of sleep before he needed to have another press conference or at least a live event, because he just kind of slouched over in one of those memorials. It's like, I can't talk today. I'm so very tired. But what did he say? Well, he marks the 20th anniversary criticizing dark forces in America. That's racist. And against the peaceful religion of Islam 20 years later, and they won. Taliban won completely and fully. America's back. Build back better, baby. Joe Biden marked the 20th anniversary of 9/11 terrorist attacks by criticizing Americans for the anti-Muslim anger that occurred in the United States after the attacks took place. Yeah, okay. We also witnessed the dark forces of human nature, fear and anger, resentment and violence against Muslim Americans. Okay. True and faithful followers of a peaceful... Okay. Biden said in a pre-recorded video published for the occasion. You guys seeing this? You seeing this? I can't whatever. President said that the principle of unity in the country, also endangered by the attacks, but ultimately prevailed. The Taliban ultimately prevailed because of their unified front of not putting up with any of your intersectionality, any of your fucking third wave feminism ideas, any of your fucking woke ideology that you strictly adhere to. Okay, I'm not giving you any deference so far, you fucking old fossil. We also saw something all too rare, a true sense of national unity. Yeah. Shouldn't you be striving for that? You are in charge, right? You're the guy in charge, I think, right? 81 million votes, can't be wrong. Unity and resilience, the capacity to recover and repair in the face of trauma, unity in service. You just keep repeating the words and eventually somebody will believe them, right? Biden released the pre-recorded video as the White House confirmed Friday he had no plans to address the nation on the 20th. Oh my God, Literally, every other president gave live remarks today who is alive, okay? With the exception of Jimmy Carter, because he's almost 100 fucking years old. Everybody else went out there and fucking said some stuff. And now we're going to hear from the guy who could have stopped all of this, huh? He had bin Laden's name. He had it all written down on a fucking note for him. He could have prevented all of this. But no, you ask a significant portion of the Republican audience and they want to go back to this guy's ideology. They think that, oh yeah, mean tweets are just a bridge too far and they need to go back to the neocon roots of the fucking Republican takeover that happened post-Reagan. Yeah, with his father. Thank God. At least all he can poison is just the dirt around him. So I don't make those accusations lightly. I come prepared. People say 9/11 is the day America lost its innocence. Okay, the title of this article, you can kind of see it. Bush ties to bin Laden haunt a grim anniversary. I just have it pulled all the way down to the important parts because the lady here, she just is like, oh, I cried about it 9 days later. It's like, I don't really care. People say 9/11 is the day America lost its innocence. To me, it was the beginning of a wake-up call. Terrorism was a problem over there. This is an article from 2006, okay, from a journalist. This is from the Denver Post, okay? You guys know what Colorado is about now, okay? This was back in 2006. Just look at the rhetoric change. This almost looks like fucking journalism, if you can believe it. To me, it was the beginning of a wake-up call. Terrorism was a problem over there. But this was the first major attack of civilians on U.S. soil, prompted us to start asking questions. Why, indeed, did this happen? For many of us, it sparked the beginning of an education on the collusion between government and multinational corporations. Yes, on the surface, it seemed like the federal government, under both Clinton and Bush administrations, was asleep at the wheel. Yep. Very much like the way Bush administration was when Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans. Yep. God, there's so many parallels between Biden and Bush. It's incredible. And Carter and, well, a lot of his appointees are from Hillary, so I guess the Clinton administration as well. Bush claimed he wanted to bring back Osama bin Laden dead or alive. Well, he didn't during his fucking 7 additional years that he had there. But the more we learn about the ties between the Bush family and the bin Ladens, questions like this one pop up. Did Bush really want to capture him? Survey says fewer than 50 ground troops surrounding the massive Tora Bora region in the mountains of Afghanistan where bin Laden was hiding. Ground commanders pleaded for 800 more soldiers, according to Gary Berntsen, CIA field commander, whose book Jawbreaker goes into amazing detail about the botched paramilitary operation. Berntsen and other ground commanders said the U.S. let Osama bin Laden get away. This is because of President George W. Bush's close ties to the bin Laden family. In 1978, Bush and Osama bin Laden's brother, Salam bin Laden, founded Arbusto Energy, an oil company based in Texas. Several bin Laden family members invested in millions in the Carlyle Group, a private global equity firm based in Washington, D.C. Corruption runs deep, and it comes from both sides. See, obviously. The company's senior advisor was Bush's father. Again, I can't wait to continue to... The news just kind of has to calm down. To continue just tearing apart this Bush family, because they're really, really at the base of a lot of this fucked up situation that has plagued the West for the past... Well, definitely during the past century, and is going to lead to its ultimate downfall in this. I hope I'm wrong, but I know where the origins are at. And yeah, company's senior advisor was Bush's father, yes, H.W. After news of bin Laden-Bush connection became public, the elder Bush stepped down from Carlyle. Interestingly, on September 11, 2001, members of the Carlyle Group, including Bush Sr. and his former state secretary, James Baker, were meeting in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Washington, D.C., along with Shakif bin Laden. Was meeting with the bin Laden in Washington on September 11th. Okay. Another one of Osama bin Laden's brothers. All flights were halted following a terrorist attack. There was one exception made. The White House authorized planes to pick up 140 Saudi nationals, including 24 members of the bin Laden family, living in various cities in the United States, to bring them back to Saudi Arabia, where they would be safe. They were never interrogated. 5 years later, they were still asking questions. We have lost our innocence, but we also losing, thankfully, our ignorance. Boy, I wish you were right with that closing statement. I wish you were right. Wasn't that refreshing to read something from like a mainstream outlet that wasn't filled with weasel words? I'm thankful not for the subject matter. Well, I am thankful for the subject matter, but not for what they're disclosing. You get what I mean? Speaking of which, this is why the assault on your freedoms is a unified front. This is the uniparty in action, folks. George W. Bush ties a 9/11 terror attack to violence that gathers within the United States. Trying to conflate and trying to say that January 6th was the new 9/11. Literally, this is what these idiots are pushing. Idiots, no, it's not even ignorance at this point. This is malevolence. This is a power grab because they believe that they're deities, okay? They think and they see the people who treat the government, modern day governments around the world, as their new Lord and Savior. They think that they're above all of us, okay? They think that it's their duty, their opportunity to seize additional unspeakable amounts of power. It's overwhelming. Former President George W. Bush appeared to use his speech recognizing the 20th anniversary of something he was responsible for, at least in some part, to compare the January 6 protesters to a terrorist attack, or to the terrorists who attacked America, if you can fucking believe it. Bush spoke at the 9/11 memorial service for Flight 93 in Pennsylvania, recalling the 9/11 attacks while warning of future terrorist threats to the United States. We have seen growing evidence that the dangers of our country can come not from only across borders, but from violence that gathers within. Sure. Like what? Like what exactly? Somebody fucking knocking over a bike fence? Cool. How much damage was actually done? Well-traveled ground. Former president did not specifically name January 6 protests, but he alluded to the American citizens who stormed Capitol Hill and the protests for the 2020 election. He continued, "There is a little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home, but in its a disdainful pluralism, in the disregard for human life, in the determination to defile national symbols. There are children of the same foul spirit, and it's our continuing duty to confront them." Dog whistle if I've ever heard it. Bush spoke about the America I know, where America united for purpose. In purpose, rather. At a time when religious bigotry may have flowed freely, I saw Americans reject prejudice and embrace people of Muslim faith. Oh, okay. So he's actually taking the counterpoint to Biden. Interesting. That is the nation I know. Bush reaffirmed his belief that Americans should continue to welcome refugees. Of course he does, because he was the first guy. He was the first president to call for amnesty in 2006. It was terribly unpopular then. It is terribly unpopular now, except for the people who it is popular with have the controls and they're at the levers of power. Fucking Christ. At the time when nativism could have stirred hatred and violence against people perceived as outsiders, I saw Americans reaffirm their welcome to immigrants and refugees. Really? Yes. Helpful refugees. Actually war-stricken refugees, and actually, helpful immigrants, skilled people who come over through legal means. Very much so. Yes, I think everybody wants people who have the shared ideology come over and make the place that they're coming to better, instead of just come and take everything that they possibly can and then just shit on the country that has afforded them such opportunity and greatness. That's what you should be talking about. But no. All brown people are the same, right? You fucking technocrats. Bush recalled the spirit of unity on 9/11, as well as the horror of the attacks. Yeah, very much so. But I don't need to hear any more from this guy because, hey, I'm not going to specifically call out January 6th, right? 6th, yes, as the attack, the terror. Just go back a couple of months ago when he was running the podcast circuit trying to pimp his shitty paintings. They are better than Hunter Biden's paintings, though. And remember, he was the one who was calling out everything that was happening with January 6th, so you don't really have to take too much of a logical leap to really think what he's talking about. But, hey, yeah, so Barry was in the audience, Bush was in the audience, Biden was in the audience. There's one person, and Clinton, both of the Clintons were there because Hillary still thinks that she won won the 2016 election, because she'll never let that go. So yeah, all of the presidents that were there, with the exception of the very, very old and very, very fragile Jimmy Carter. He's probably out building a fucking house for Habitats for Humanity, the crazy bastard. And probably looking up in the sky and thanking the Lord for not having the worst administration ever. Thanking Biden for actually doing something for just one person out there. But hey, take the little victories where you can get them, I suppose. But who was missing? Who was missing? I think there was a 45-shaped hole there, but hey, you know what? Everybody, it was trending all over Twitter yesterday, so you knew that there was some kind of a fucking nefarious plan full of horseshit right behind it. Where's Trump? Is he going to issue a statement? Is he going to talk on the day? Why are you talking about Biden not making a live statement? Well, actually, so Trump had a statement as well. No, go figure, right? Because the guy who is probably the most patriotic president since, oh God, I don't know. I really don't know. And the guy who supported the military and actually did something for the VA, who raised their fucking absolutely abysmal approval rating to into the fucking high 80s and low 90s. Somebody who did something for veterans for a change. Somebody who thoroughly and completely supported the police and the fire departments. It would have been odd. It would have been completely out of character for him not to do something on the day. And he was in New York, okay? He was there. And here's his statement. Trump mourns 20th anniversary of 9/11. Slams Joe Biden for incredible weakness in Afghanistan. Well, you got to take those shots if they're there. Former President Donald Trump released a video honoring the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks on the World Trade Center, an attack that killed nearly 3,000 people, permanently changed the United States and launched a 20-year war in Afghanistan. For the great people of the country, it is a very sad day. September 11th represents great sorrow for our country, the 45th president said. Many things were displayed that day, including, most importantly, the bravery of our police, fire, and first responders of every kind. The job they did was truly unbelievable. We love them, and we thank them. Yeah, exactly, right? Those are actual heroes, not the ones who fucking pop lock and post it on Twitter and TikTok on their fucking breaks. Heroes, no. The people who showed up and went above and beyond on 9/11, actual heroes, okay? Got to start giving back the power to those words, right? Hero, terrorist, okay? Insurrection. You got to start using those words appropriately. You cannot allow the subversion of speech that has been happening. But again, another little tangent. 2 decades later, President Joe Biden's administration led a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I have no respect left for him, that's why. In which ISIS-K terrorists killed hundreds of people, including 13 U.S. service members in a suicide bombing in Kabul airport. Biden also left Americans behind and billions of dollars in elite American weaponry, which the Taliban had obtained for its own purposes. $84 billion worth of stuff. Congratulations. It is also a sad time for the way our war on those that did us such harm to our country ended last week. The loss of 13 great warriors and the many more who were wounded should have never happened, he said. Trump shamed Biden for how he handled the end of the war and called his administration inept. Fair. President initially led negotiations with the Taliban during his presidency and agreed to leave Afghanistan and ended the 20-year war on May 1st, as long as the Taliban refrained from interacting with terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, among other agreements. And if you do that, fuck around and find out. America's exit was always conditional upon the behavior of the Taliban. But when Biden became president, fuck that. We're leaving. We're taking the troops first. What about the dignitaries? Helicopters on roofs. I don't know. How did Vietnam end? It worked then. It'll work again. America's exit was an unmitigated failure. The leader of our country was made to look like a fool, and that can never be allowed to happen. It was caused by bad planning, incredible weakness, and a leader who truly didn't understand what was happening. This is the 20th year of the war, and it should have been a year of victory and honor and strength. Instead, Joe Biden and his inept administration surrendered in defeat. Sure does look like that. I'm sure is recorded like that in the history books. Fair statement. Shots taken. shots deservedly taken, if we're being completely honest. But okay, so now Biden and Trump are on the same level. Okay, they both had videos that were released, and Biden has currently, as of right now, I don't know if he's actually went up anywhere and talked, but I highly fucking doubt that, because there's no teleprompters around, and every other living president, with one notable exception, is significantly younger than him, so he can't be asked to just make an off-the-cuff remark. But what else did Trump do, right? Because he's got that fight to call, which is still baffling and hilarious in and of itself. That's going to be down in Florida, so are they doing a remote cast? But they said that it was going to be live and in person, so yeah, he's probably flying down there. He's got a nice private jet in and of himself, so that's fine. But he was also very, very, very much in New York, and he met with the first responders that were there instead of just for a photo op. This was very cool, okay, because it wasn't announced. It was live streamed, but it wasn't live streamed on like Trump's official Rumble channel or anything like. He's still banned on YouTube, so it was just somebody caught it in the back of the room, and he met with, and I listened to it, I seen it, and a small group of officers that was there. It was not announced beforehand. He just went down there and showed his appreciation. It was completely appreciative of the effort of New York police and fire departments. It was really nice to see, and it was probably the best thing that any of the former leaders did today, for being totally 100% honest. Trump made a surprise visit to New York police and fire departments on 9/11. Former President Trump made a surprise visit with New York City police and firemen Saturday to commemorate 20th anniversary of September 11th terrorist attacks. In remarks to assembled guests, the former president sharply rebuked President Biden and the U.S. pullout from Afghanistan. It was gross incompetence, and I hate to talk about it on this day. Trump left the NYPD 17th precinct in Midtown just after 1:40 p.m. local time. He exited to cheers and applause, with one well-wisher screaming, "Thank you for keeping us safe. I've been doing so much to support the people who do what you do," Trump told the friendly audience. "We love the blue." I'll say it out loud. You know, you're not supposed to say that. We love the blue. Wow, that's a big dude. But Trump is still the tallest. That's very, very funny. Officers lined up outside the station house in formation to greet the former president. Trump shook hands and posed for photos while walking next to ladder company number 2, where he also signed autographs. Yeah, meanwhile, people are trying to get out of the way and then just trying to yell from balconies at Biden. But the guy who, lost the 2020 election, right? He's getting asked for autographs in New York City. Wish we'd get some news about those audits. What else could get fucking crazier, right? Okay, so that's people on the ground. People on the ground in New York, people who were there firsthand, okay? People who have relatives, people who have family members who were affected by that, people who served and helped with the cleanup and all of the aftermath that came out from that horrific attack. And you have W and Biden blaming fucking domestic extremists that are out there that haven't done anything nearly as terrible. Not even close. Not even fucking close. Not completely abdicating any of the responsibility that they hold for the things that they committed. Like, yeah, you broke some glass, you kicked down some doors at the Capitol. Probably don't do that, but point to me to another event that has happened within, the past 30 years that you can blame on these evil far-right wingers, the far-right extremists that are out there. Because when they say domestic extremists, they don't mean Antifa, okay? Because that's just a myth. That's just an idea, man. They don't mean Black Lives Matter who, you know what? Hey, let's just back it up. 2015 when they were running down the streets, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Yeah. Not to mention the riots in 2020, of course, in blue cities conducted by people who are full-blown socialists. But yeah, no, because when they mean domestic extremists, they just mean white people with just general center-right views. And it's taking a foothold. It's taking a foothold everywhere. This is why I have faith in Florida, at least for as long as Ron is there, okay? Because the next generation that's on the come up, man, I don't know where to go. And those margins of victory in Florida are far too fucking thin, at least for what I am comfortable with. Florida students, teachers should avoid placing blame for 9/11 and focus on America's faults. This is what the kids are asking for. Kids who are in school who weren't even alive when this happened. When those fucking Islamic terrorists flew 2 planes into the Trade Center, who flew a plane into the Pentagon, who were flying a plane that was heading for the White House. And I won't make the obvious statement, connect your own dots. They don't want to blame the people who actually did that. They don't even want to blame the people who allowed it to happen. America's faults. Oh, for being mean to brown people. Okay, can you point me to any of that? Or is this just another one of those straw men from a bygone era? On the 20th year anniversary of September 11th terrorist attacks, today's college-age students who were too young to remember what happened, and many were born after the attacks, Florida students interviewed by Campus Reform said that educators teaching lessons on terrorist attacks should focus on discussing American exceptionalism, avoid discussing American exceptionalism, and focus on America's faults. This is why this country is so divided as it is. It's why the entire West is like it is, okay? Think that they should be taking fucking pointers from the Middle East or from communist China. Whatever. Campus Reform reporter Ophelia Jacobson went to the University of Florida to ask students how they thought the deadly 9/11 terrorist attacks should be taught in the classroom. Students went on to said that educators should avoid placing blame and avoid talking about American exceptionalism while teaching about 9/11. Students also suggested teachers focus on America's faults. Like what? I think that the 9/11 attacks should be taught in a way that doesn't really target, like, more like who did it, but like how, like, we can, like, move forward and, like, different, like, these are university students, by the way. I'm just going to drop the likes because that's even too much for an impersonation. Different healing processes I can go through to make everything, good again. Build back better. Third student suggested that the curriculum should avoid placing blame because getting into specific factors that were at play will risk people engaging in Islamophobia as well as the ideas of American exceptionalism. Fuck these kids. The students generally did not seem to agree with the concept of American exceptionalism. Why is that? These college-age students that have gone through the different institutions of higher learning and have been indoctrinated by an overwhelming amount of socialists. Why would they possibly think that America was never great to begin with? I don't agree with the idea of American exceptionalism. It is rooted in a lot of colonialists. Sorry, I was going to say colonialists, but they didn't, so I won't. And imperialist notions of how we should treat other people. Okay, so you're telling other people how to treat other people, but they're not allowed to think like they do because you think that they adhere to colonialism and imperialism. Do you not see the error in your logic? Of course you don't. I don't think we should be talking about the greatness of the country. Why? I definitely don't agree that America is the best country on earth. I think that we still need a lot of fixing. Where else would you like to live? Where else? Where else is better than America? I think it's a dangerous mindset to teach young people that, because I think that's the reason why a lot of people grow up to be the kind of extremists and really nationalistic, says the extremist. Dude, this just outlines the divide that's in this country, but you don't have to take it from me. You don't have to take it from any of the other articles I presented. Why not from the guy who body bagged bin Laden? Navy SEAL who shot bin Laden says internal division now biggest threat to America. Very much so, okay? We're seeing it with the people cheering on the vaccine mandate, okay? We're seeing it with this unearned authority that these low status individuals have in order to flex on them that, you have to wear a mask. You have to get vaccinated. Don't put me at risk. You have to do all of this stuff. Because they don't have any success in any other avenues of their life. Now they think that they have this moral superiority, and they think that they're doing something for the greater good by encroaching on your rights and freedoms. You have that side, and then you have the other side, which is rapidly growing. Maybe I'm just hoping of that. Or even I was just going to, describe rational human beings, which I still think that there are some people out there that are like that. Maybe that is the smallest group after all. But then you got the farthest weirdos that are out there that think that all of this is a conspiracy. All of this shit comes from fucking 5G radio waves, and there's the black hats and white hats, and they all just fight in the fucking back rooms and something about pizza and shit. If that's all we had to worry about, just the farthest fringes. But those Karens that are out there, man, they're pretty numerous, okay? And those far, whatever, call them far-right weirdos, those domestic extremists, they number in maybe the dozens, maybe Because I think for every one that's online talking about that type of stuff, there's probably 4 feds in that same fucking chat room trying to stoke up that person to do something a little bit funny. Are the people who just want to go back to fucking living their life? The people who have just had enough of all of this insanity, just being labeled with every sort of pejorative you can think of, just for wanting to have their own individual liberty and freedom? Those people are now being forced to pick sides. I know what side I'm on. Well, let's just get what Robert O'Neill had to say. Former U.S. Navy SEAL who credited with killing Osama bin Laden, the terrorist mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks. Oh, good, I just learned that. Said that the biggest threat to America comes not from outside, but from inside, internal strife and division. O'Neill made the remarks in the interview with Fox News on the eve of September 11th, as the nation prepared to honor the victims. My biggest concern is the division in our country, O'Neill said to the outlet. Most people are good to each other, but the anger and the division gets the ratings, and that's what people want to hear. Very much so. A lot of people know if they keep people divided, they can stay in power, and it's wrong. Where's the lie? We can disagree with others, but we're on the same team when it all comes down to it. I don't think we are anymore, Robert. I really, really, really don't. That's why, of course, I'm always going to fear a civil war, okay? Because it's not going to stay contained within the borders of the United States, okay? It's everywhere in the West, okay? We're seeing all of these policies just come in. Hey, they might be a couple of days later. They might be a week later than other places around the world. What starts in the UK trickles down over to Canada. And if something happens in Australia, it'll show up in the United States, okay? Anywhere in a Western democracy, not like geographically speaking, but you know the type of society, the free and open first world society, okay? A little bit more direct and a little bit more defined. Okay, cool, great. Glad we're on the same page. But that pipeline of ideas is flowing, okay? And those same tactics, in order for all of these fucking, well, let's just call them who they are. All of these globalists who are at the fucking top, because can you name a country that hasn't descended into pure tyranny that is in the Western world? Biden, Trudeau, Johnson, Scott Morrison, Jacinda Ardern, Macron, like what? Merkel, like just keep going. You're not going to find one. You're not going to find a Trump. You're not going to find it anywhere. There are elections that are on the horizon, but I can speak about Canada specifically, okay? I have hope for Le Pen out there in France, but it's, once again, another one of those, oh, she's doing good in the polls, but then is it just going to get snatched away at the last minute because the French just realized that outside of just bagels and BO, their third favorite thing is surrendering. But continue to protest, though, for the 9th fucking week. It's really making a difference. But no, man, something fucking starts us off, okay? They start pushing a little bit too far, and I feel like that war against the unvaccinated, that speech from Thursday night, obviously nothing's hot right now, but that just seems like one of those landmark inciting moments that I fear is going to have long-lasting repercussions once the text starts going out there, once those challenges in the courts start showing up, and if they don't go one way, who even knows at this point, if they go one way or another, if they get repealed, if they end up getting affirmed and implemented, maybe that's when it goes hot. I hope not. I hope not. I hope this past 20 years of trying to eradicate terrorism wasn't all for naught, but like I said, I'm optimistic about the long term. I think 20 years from now, the West is going to be in a better place than it is right now, because I couldn't possibly hope or put that out into the ether that we'll be in a worse spot than we are right now. But as for the short term, I just can't be optimistic at all, in all fucking honesty. But take a moment today to just reflect. It's an important day for a multitude of reasons, and I know that most of the day is over for a lot of people when you're watching this, but it was a big day. It was a moment in time that hopefully will never be replicated, and if you remember it, it will not be replicated. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.